and they really fucking matter. There's like 4 things that matter, and they really fucking matter. I mean, objectively, I mean, you should care, especially you, if you thought about it for 5 fucking minutes.
Welcome to episode 52 of the Outer Voices podcast. We are your hosts, Keem and Esme.
Hey!
And delayed.
What's delayed?
So, just a little peek behind the curtain. We tried to record the opening once already, and something happened. But someone came in a little delayed the first time because they were distracted. And this time seemed also a tad bit delayed.
I was not delayed this time. We must have an audio delay.
Blame it on the audio.
I am blaming your phone because that's the reason that we had to re-record in the first place.
No. There's no proof of that. Anyway, Esme's had a very busy morning. As you guys will see later on.
Yes.
Hear later on.
We will. I don't know why you continue to think that we have viewers, Keem. We don't. This is not a video anything.
Because I both watch video podcasts and audio podcasts and shit.
I think if it's a video podcast, it's actually called a vlog, I'm pretty sure.
No. A vlog is something different.
I don't understand.
Vlogs generally tend to be more personal, with usually one person, because it's a video log.
Whatever.
A video podcast has multiple people. It's usually longer formats, that type of thing.
Welcome to the internet, guys. There's so much stuff that goes on here.
The sad thing is, I've had this conversation with somebody else this week, and they said, "Oh, you describing a video podcast, like, oh, you mean a vlog?" And I was like, no, it's not a vlog, it's different.
Okay. In any case.
Sorry, Keem has been having a weird week of like emotions and whatever, so I'm a little wound up, which you guys will see later. This episode is going to be actually about dealing with certain emotions and such. So stay tuned for that. We don't have a guest this week. It's just us bullshitting around like we normally do.
But we have a guest next week. I'm super excited. Next week is going to be fun, guys. Tune in. It's going to be great.
Can we call this person? This person's like a part-time host. So
no, at the frequency that
he just doesn't show up.
The frequency that they're on, I would say semi regular guest, right? Right. Ari's been on 3 times? 3 times in the last 35 episodes. Semi-regular guest. Semi-regular guest.
Ari can just be a guest. He can't be a special guest anymore.
Yeah. He's just a regular guest.
The specialness is gone. No. The honeymoon phase is over.
No. I feel bad saying that he's not special.
I mean, he's special to us.
Ari is very special. Anyway, Ari's on again next week. We're going to be talking about controversial shit that's going to get us put on FBI watch lists. So, if you're not already on an FBI watch list and you're not interested in being on one, probably don't listen to next week's episode. Just saying.
And actually, go ahead and get put on the FBI watch list. I mean, it's fun there. I've been on there for years.
Don't coerce people. If people want to make that choice for themselves, fine. Let them. But also...
Now,
Keem and I are both
need to get on some revolutionary shit.
But also, Keem and I are both on the list. And so if you are a listener, you're probably on the list.
Right. I mean, this episode might get you also on a list because, man, coming for you.
Whatever.
Anyway, I mean, if you guys have been moving to our news segment, if you guys have been following the news has been. I'm getting tired of saying it's insane every week, but it's like we're living in a really shitty movie.
Oh, this movie is the worst. I'm ready to be done.
So before I go on the news story, into the news story, have
Sorry.
this was just one funny / sad thing I've heard this week. Did you hear that the president and the former vice president have been challenging each other to a fight?
Oh my god, I hate that news so much. It's so annoying and it's so childish.
Not
And it's just like,
not a
God,
debate,
damn.
a fight.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as ridiculous and stupid as that is, I would pay money for a pay-per-view event with Uncle Joe and Chester Cheetah going at it in the UFC ring. I would spend money for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, Trump, he's got Joe pound for pound because he's a large, unhealthy man. Like, grossly unhealthy. Like, frightening. If you haven't heard of Trump's, like, diet, if you can call it that, it is horrifyingly unhealthy.
Yeah.
So he has Joe pound for pound, but I think Joe has him with speed and skill. It would be like a fight. It would be like a nursing home fight. I watch that. I watch Trump catch those hands.
As they say.
Like have Obama in the Obama as the trainer in the corner like Rocky.
Fun fact, I have never seen any of the
Melania-
Rocky films.
How? How?
I like how all of my partners
My
continue. I like how all of my partners continue to express surprise at whenever I say, and friends, partners, friends, acquaintances, students continue to say, "How have you never seen this?" Whenever I say, "I've never seen this movie," it's because I don't watch any fucking movies, guys.
Well, I mean, it's with Rocky. That's different. Like Rocky is one of those things that Rocky, at least one of the Rocky movies comes on so much that it's weird to think how you didn't accidentally see a Rocky movie.
You know how I never watch TV, right? I haven't watched live. I have not watched live television since last year's March Madness.
You could have fucked around and went to a Target and saw a Rocky movie playing on one of the TVs.
I mean, maybe I have. I don't know.
That's how. Anyway, if you ever decide to go see a Rocky, I would start with Creed and work your way back.
Good to know.
I mean, some of the other Rocky movies are better, some of them are worse, but I would go down because Michael B. Jordan. But anyway, I would love to see the pay-per-view Trump and Biden fight. Mm-hmm. Oh, you can get some. Esme, I know you haven't watched wrestling, but the best thing would be to get some of the wrestling announcers to call the fight. That would be because wrestling announcers are so over the top, especially for those of you who watch wrestling, like JR and Jerry the King Lawler. Completely over the top, just like ridiculous. I would pay so much money to watch that. My God.
You're ridiculous.
Anyway, let's move into our actual news.
Yes.
Let us please. News segment. I want to bring on something funny before we got serious because this is probably going to be a bit of a downer episode, just to be honest. At least until we get to the sex segment. So yeah. Do you want to go first? Or
no, you go first because mine has taken us into the.
Okay, guys, I'm coming in hot. So one of the things that's been going on the past couple weeks, many of you have heard of it. Honestly, it got less coverage that it really should have. But for the past 3 weeks, up until this past week, there have been, I think it's been 5 bombings in Austin, Texas.
Ugh.
These bombings targeted upper middle class black families.
Yes.
There were quite a few injured. I don't remember exactly how many injured. 2 people were killed, including a teenager and a 51-year-old father, I think. Like I said, so these bombings went on for about 3 weeks, I think, with very little news coverage, very little attention, until finally this week, the bomber,
alleged bomber. They were right. Like they were investigating him. In any case,
alleged bomber. Let's hope alleged, because what the universe forbid that these bombings continue.
Yes. Let us hope that this guy that they are claiming was the bomber was actually the bomber, because if so, he apparently did what? Blew himself up.
Yes.
Right. If he was in fact the bomber, then this will.
His name was Mark Anthony. Yeah, stop. But his name was Mark Anthony Condit. He allegedly, when he was cornered by officers, set off one of his own bombs in his car, I think.
I don't know.
Now, searching, they also have questioned, I think it's 2 of his roommates as possible suspects as well. No word on them yet. I don't think they've been arrested. They've just been brought in possibly for information. But with that being said, after searching his things, and a few things, like many things about this story makes me fucking angry. The lack of coverage, the real, like, the authorities were not acting as if these bombings were something to be worried about. Like, people were getting blown up, and it really wasn't acting like it was a big deal. Which, I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
But so after searching this young man's apartment, he's community college, young white community college dropout. They found a video of that the guy had made, where basically what he said was he didn't give any political or religious reasons for doing what he did. The only reason he said he did it, he was doing it allegedly, was that he wanted to. That's it. He said he wanted to. He said he goes, I wish I could, and this is a quote from the tape. He said he wishes he could feel bad for what he did, but he doesn't. He enjoyed it.
That's fucked up.
In the video actually, he called himself a self-proclaimed psychopath, that he doesn't feel emotions, which it's when someone calls themselves a psychopath, there's touching there, because that usually psychopaths have some kind of diagnosis. Yeah. They don't just proclaim it themselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is what this is what the video is purported as saying. Like I said, he's no remorse. He enjoyed what he did. He did it just because he could. And with all that being said, the authorities coming out of it said this video was just a cry for help from a disturbed young man.
Fuck all of that.
And that their biggest regret is that that people failed him by not getting him help when it was needed. So
okay, I'm not going to argue. Sorry, I'll let you go. Go.
I'm saying it's everyone else's fault. This dude blows up. He bombs. He makes 5 different bombs. He sets off 5 different bombs. Injures a bunch of people. Kills 2. Says he did it just because he wanted to. But it's the public's fault. It's everyone else's fault because we failed this poor, disturbed individual.
Yeah. No. Okay. I'm gonna jump in. Because I'm not gonna say that normalizing mental health care would not help us catch people like this earlier. Maybe, right? But also, what kind of fucked up bullshit system says, oh, this white psychopath could have been stopped if only we had cared more, but the black kids who join gangs because they live in places where the gang is the safest place for them to be. Like those kids are just thugs and they're bad people and they're irrecoverable, right? If we're going
that's just what they do.
I know, but if we're going to, exactly, right? This system is so fucked up because it's unconscionable that we can take the most horrific, terrorizing, violent, like large scale violent, offenses committed by white men and say, well, only if he had gotten the help that he needed, he wouldn't have committed these crimes. How bad do you feel for him? But young black people, especially young black men who commit crimes in the name of basic survival, right? They're trying to feed themselves and their families and avoid getting killed, right, on the streets. Those people are bad people, right? For killing people, for killing people in the service of providing sustenance and housing for themselves and their family, right? Those people are terrible people, but that poor white boy should have just gotten the help that he needed, and then he wouldn't have randomly bombed these people, right? Fuck that. Fuck all of that.
Don't you understand? White men are the victims. Duh. White men are the victims, always the victims, no matter what white men do, especially now. White men are attacked on all sides by everyone.
Everyone.
Especially white Christian men. And adding on to this guy, because I'm going to speak on the white Christian thing. This guy was a part of a Christian, a quote unquote Christian survivalist group.
Yeah.
And we all know what that means.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but no, the white Christian men are attacked on all sides. I mean, side note, that's why the Pentagon had to ban transgendered people from the military.
Oh my God! I will admit that I have not looked into this. I will admit that I have not looked into this, but I've seen people celebrating this change in the legislation. They're like, oh, hooray, he did a thing that was good. No, all this did was change. He backed down on his explicit ban on transgender people in the military in favor of an implicit categorical ban on transgender people in the military. Effects of this are exactly the same, but the language is worded in such a way that people who aren't paying attention will celebrate it.
Also, side note, not legislation.
Oh, okay.
Not legislation.
Not legislation.
Yeah. Legislation comes from It's executive order.
Yes. Thank you.
Legislation comes from Congress.
Sorry,
so it's not a law.
I just heard
and
about this morning and have not yet had a chance to actually read into what is going on.
Oh, yes.
But he backed off on an explicit ban in favor of an implicit ban, the effects of which are exactly the same.
Right. Well, and what it said was ban of any transgender person who has experienced any kind of dysphoria.
Wait,
That's
so
what it said, by the way.
What does it actually say? So if you've experienced dysphoria as a transgender person, you're not eligible for military service?
Yes.
That's the same damn thing.
Yes, exactly.
No, that's exactly what I mean, though, is before he said no transgender people in the military. And now he says, okay, transgender people are okay as long as they don't experience dysphoria. Well, one of the most prevalent like things for transgender people to experience is some kind of dysphoria. Surprise, right?
Right.
So it's this, like I said, no, that's exactly what I said, right? The effect of it is exactly the same.
No, I was just given the exact example of what it says. But what I saw coming out of this, and unfortunately, I always just happen to see random shit. But what I saw were people going, yes, he made such a great law because we have to protect our soldiers on the battlefield. Because do you know what it's like for a soldier to be beside someone that they don't know if they can trust?
Oh my God. Okay. Ugh. There's so many things. There's so many things wrong with this. Oh my God.
And let's just be real. Like I said, we know what that means. We know what that means. But it's back to that. Look, even the trans people are attacking our white soldiers that are fighting for our country. But it's back to this, Trump ran on it with this white male victimhood. It used to be it's actually starting to back off now. It's starting to back off a little bit now. You see it still used. It used to be used white female victimhood. That was the excuse for doing everything. But now it's white male victimhood. These white men, they're attacked. And if they do something, they do horrible things, it's not their fault. They're mentally ill. It's our fault for not helping them.
Yeah, and that gets into what I was going to talk about for my thing today too, which is in the wake of the Parkland shootings, right? The walk up, not out campaign, right? Where instead of walking out, it encourages students, primarily high school students, instead of walking out of classrooms and schools in protest, like as a way to draw attention to the horrifically deficient gun laws that we have in the United States, right? It encourages people to approach students who are antisocial, who are loners, who are all of this, hello, victim blaming, right? Oh my God, you could have totally prevented this horrible shooting at your high school if only you had been a better friend to that creepy dude who acted weird, who was really standoffish and made you feel uncomfortable every time you talked to him, right? Hello. Anyway.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Can I say something that goes with this?
Yes.
So, on a nerd tip, there's this anime called Devilman Crybaby. It's on Netflix. It's great. It will fuck your mind up.
Oh, Lord.
But spoilers here. The antagonist, this anime begins to revolve around a fear that actual demons are possessing human bodies and murdering and killing people, causing chaos. And the antagonist's whole thing is to stoke this fear to basically lead humanity to destroying itself. And one of the things he does is he goes on TV and says, we have to stop the demons, and we know how they pick out what people, how they pick out people to possess. If you see anybody that's a loner, that isn't hanging out with anyone, that seems weird, go stop that person, because they're going to get possessed by a demon, and you should get rid of them before they get possessed and cause chaos. That's basically what that walk up not out thing is. Mm-hmm. Go target this person and stop them before they do it. That's the parallels, and that didn't end well, by the way, for that show. Didn't end well at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's that whole, and another issue, and like I said, we're going to go back to what we were talking about with your news story, which we're going to get to like immediately. But it also, because people were saying like, here's another instance of when a white man does something, it's not terrorism, it's mental illness, it's blah, this and that. So that actually made me go and look up what terrorism is.
Yeah.
By definition, what terrorism is. Mm-hmm. And in this case, it's not terrorism. Because by definition, terrorism is done for some political reason. That's by definition.
Okay, so the argument that I've heard about this, though, is if a white man bombs exclusively black people, is there not some kind of implicit political action inherent in that action? Right?
Here's the thing. It's the way they've defined it, it has to be explicit.
That's some fucked up shit.
And we're gonna have this discussion on another show. We need a serious redefining of what redefinition, Westers, whatever, of what terrorism is. Because the definition of terrorism has opened the door for all these caveats to let specific kinds of people get away with what are really acts of terrorism. It's letting people get away with those acts without the proper punishment. And that's fucked.
Right, it's fucked up. It's fucked up that effectively terrorizing a community, right, which is what this Austin bomber did, right? Sending out bombs to houses, right? Effectively terrorized a community is not under the criminal justice system accurately labeled as terrorism, right? To terrorize a community should be terrorism.
Right.
That's fucked up.
But it is not.
That's fucked up.
And besides the normal societal reasons why white guys are never terrorists, as long as that definition is still the one they're sticking to, this is going to keep repeating itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, like fuck everything about like that situation. To the like families of the victims, like you guys have our thoughts, mm-hmm. And other than thoughts, we're going to be advocating for you. And
okay, I have to do a thing at this point, Keem. I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you because I'm interrupting, right? At this point, because this is a personal pet peeve every time some shit happens, right? You gave the name of the bomber. the victims, the people that he killed, are Draylen Mason, who we found out after he was killed that before he died, Oberlin Music College had sent out his acceptance letter for upright bass. He was a bassist and a musician, 17-year-old kid in Austin, right? And the other person who was killed was actually 39. You said he was 51. He was actually 39 years old, and his name was Anthony Stephen House. I get really, really pissed off when you look up an event and the only name that you ever see is the person who killed all these people, right? Even in the after effects, we're centering the person who committed the crime instead of the victims, right? So the two people that were killed were Draylen Mason and Anthony Stephen House. Sorry. Personal thing.
No, it's fine. No, it's fine. But I mean, that's that's another thing where our society works. Mm-hmm. You never know. Like, and that's in everything. Mm-hmm. You never know who the victims are. You only know the perpetrators.
Yes, which is messed up.
That's true, but it's all that's yeah. Anyway, like I said, to the families, you have our thoughts, and even more, you have our advocacy, to get things out there to help make sure these things do not happen.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Give me a few. No, give me a few seconds. I've got one more thing to add to this, but my internet is being super slow. To that end, as far as contributing our advocacy, there is a fund that's been set up for the Draylen Mason Fund, in the name of the 17-year-old who was killed by this bomb, the Draylen Mason Memorial Fund. If you go to youcaring.com /Jones Wilson family, that will take you, that you should be able to look at, or just look it up, You Caring Draylen Mason Memorial Fund. Proceeds for that are going to the family of this 17-year-old who was killed, and to help them with funeral costs, to help them with all the other things, and then to help them do whatever. It looks like this has been more than funded. But to lose a young person in a family like that is unspeakable. And so helping them out will help them contribute to what they need to do, in the wake of this.
Right.
So, that is a thing that you can do. So anyway, moving on, I guess then into my, speaking of advocacy, right? Let's move into what I was doing today, which is the reason that we're recording late today. Not that it will affect our listeners because we post on Monday. I was late recording today because I was downtown at the Memphis March for Our Lives, which is the national gun control advocacy march, organized. The national one is organized by student survivors of the shooting in Parkland, Florida. And this is happening all over the country right now. The largest, of course, is in Washington, D.C., but there are connected events in almost every major city throughout the United States. I went to the one at downtown here in Memphis, which was organized. I will give a shout out to Bridges USA. Most of the students, in fact, I think all of the students who organized, this is not sponsored. They made it very, very clear at the march. This is not sponsored by Bridges USA, but Bridges USA is an organization that allows teenagers and provides resources for teenagers in local communities to become politically active, to become advocates for themselves and for other people in their communities, and to engage in political and economic and advocacy systems in their cities. Bridges USA does a ton of great work in Memphis. And the majority of the people who were involved in the organization of this event were young people, primarily Black and Latina people, like young people who many of them are involved in Bridges USA, which is, I mean, the work that I have attended like half a dozen events in Memphis in the last year or year and a half or 2 years. And almost every single event that I've attended has somebody who has stood up and said, my name is whatever, and I am here with Bridges USA, which is awesome that this organization is encouraging these people. Yeah, so the March for Our Lives is an event, like I said, that's happening throughout the country today, primarily in the form of marches, right? Where there are local people who are speaking. And the message of this march is that the current laws that we have surrounding people's access to guns, the kind of guns that are available, the way that guns are available in the United States, is doing an incredibly poor job at reducing events of gun violence. The laws that we have surrounding gun control in the United States right now are actively contributing to events of gun violence and people dying at the hands of people who have guns. And that there are, and that the politicians who are in office right now are overwhelmingly in the pocket of the NRA and gun rights lobbies, and as such are refusing to pass gun control measures that would prevent gun violence in favor of taking money from the NRA, whose interest it is to make sure that guns are more easily available to every person in the United States, which is stupid. But anyway, so that's what I did this morning. I went and marched downtown to support common sense gun legislation, right? Sorry, that was my speech.
No, it's fine.
Right. And I had a moment of personal conflict at one point when somebody started a chant that it was the chant that was started said no more guns. And I had a very brief moment of conflict because I'm actually of the opinion that guns, like many kinds of guns, can be an extremely valuable, useful tool. But there are certain kinds of guns, notably guns that were originally designed for like military service, right? Automatic and semi-automatic weapons with large clip capacities. That these weapons are not necessary for any of the things that a civilian would need a gun for, right? With the possible exception of sport, in which case, if you are making the claim that your only reason for having this gun is because it's fun to fire, like, why not invest in some kind of system that makes it like so I mean, you can't go fire these fun weapons for fun on your own private property most of the time anyway, unless you live in an extremely remote location, just because of the proximity to other like human beings, right? So it makes no sense to say that I should be able to have any kind of gun that I want, with any kind of clip size that I want, with any kind of firing mechanism that I want, just because it's fun for me to fire it, because I can't fire that gun at my house anyway. I have to go to a special location. So why not say this is okay to have like under these restrictions, and like I can own this weapon, but I have to store it outside my home, or I can own this weapon, but I have to store I can only get the ammunition at this special place, and I'm not allowed to take ammunition away from it, right? I have to go to the firing range and get my ammunition there and fire the gun while I'm there because it's so fun, and then I leave, right? There's no reason.
The easiest analogy, and I always tell people this, is guns are like cars.
Mm-hmm.
Cars are very dangerous. Cars are very, very dangerous. And there are limits to cars.
Yes.
You have to get a license. You have to prove you know how to use it. You got to prove you can do it safely. And if you can't do it safely, or something happens and you cause something, they take away your license. You can't use that car anymore.
Yeah.
Also, you can't buy a tank.
Yeah.
That's a vehicle used for military purposes. You can't just on your own buy a tank. You don't need a tank. Society understands that, hey, this is a vehicle used for military purposes. We don't need that on the street. So you can't buy a tank. A tank is like assault weapons. You don't need that on the street. It's for a reason. And as you were saying, like, if you want it for a special place to go, you can't drive an F1 car or NASCAR or supercars on the street. You have to go to a special place, a racetrack, to use those vehicles. Why? Because they go faster and they are more dangerous.
Yes.
The framework we need for guns already exists with cars.
Yeah.
It's all there. And also, when people get into car accidents or hit somebody with a car, no one says ban all cars.
Yes.
Because that's ridiculous. So for like you said, you felt a moment of conflict. I have that all the time when people go, well, we should just ban all guns.
Like, no, don't
ridiculous.
ban all guns. Guns are super useful. They can be good for many, many things. We have had reason recently to discuss like the ownership of guns with regards to hunting for a primary means of acquiring protein for your like food consumption, right? Like this is the whole thing. This is like guns are extremely useful. However, the way that the current like rhetoric sucks, right? That every gun should be available all the time. No, right? You don't need military style weaponry. Also, everybody goes, Second Amendment this, Second Amendment that, Second Amendment, whatever, right? So the Second Amendment, therefore you can't regulate my guns. What is the third word of the Second Amendment? Do you remember?
No.
Regulated.
True.
The Second Amendment begins a well-regulated militia, right?
Militia.
A well-regulated militia.
let's-
Currently, we have an effectively unregulated, random, group of civilians, right? We don't have anything that resembles a militia, and it's certainly not well-regulated.
And I even think militia is an important word, because they were giving you a reason for that right.
Yes.
It wasn't, you have the right to bear arms.
No,
because we like guns. Pew, 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 pew.
Yeah, no, it's you have the right to bear arms in the service of a well-regulated militia.
and for very historical purposes, that was because as a young nation, they knew that they were going to face foreign opposition.
Yes.
They thought that Britain was going to attack in the near future, which they did.
Yes.
And they wanted to be able to respond quickly because they didn't have a very well organized military at the time.
Yes.
Also, they had muskets.
Yes.
It takes 10 motherfucking minutes to load a
No, it does
goddamn
not. It
musket.
takes 2.5 if you know what the fuck you're doing.
I am exaggerating for comedic purposes.
Don't exaggerate for comedic purposes, because somebody will jump on us. You know that they will.
And they can jump on these nuts if they try that. Really.
We are a queer femme person. We are a queer femme person and a black man talking about politics. Somebody is going to jump the fuck on us if we exaggerate for comedic purposes.
And like I said, they can jump on these nuts because I have no patience for it.
Anyway. But yeah, the point is, why the fuck would you argue against any kind of gun regulation if you are in support of the Second Amendment, right? I'm not saying ban guns. I am saying institute a thorough, comprehensive background check system. Institute a thorough system, even a system that, like, a comprehensive system that keeps track of people who are banned, who should be categorically banned from having guns because of previous convictions, right? Domestic violence convictions, violent crime convictions, right? Have a secure, comprehensive system for keeping track of that. That would go a long way. Domestic violence is the strongest predictor of mass shootings, right? Mm-hmm. The strongest predictor of mass shootings is a history of domestic violence. Not to say that everyone... Anyway. You can what?
No, go ahead. I'm going to say something when you finish.
Oh, no. So have a system to keep track of that, right? Have a required have a registration system. Have a licensure system. Have fucking gun insurance, right? If somebody kills somebody with a gun that you own, there should be something in place to hold you responsible for that. Because if somebody gets a hold of a gun that you own, exactly, right? If somebody gets a hold of a gun that you own, right? Unless you have filed some kind, if you lend somebody your gun and they use it to kill somebody, there should be something in place to hold somebody responsible for that, right? If you are found to have a gun without a license, right, without insurance, you should receive some kind of penalty for that. Because these are tools. Guns are tools, but they are fucking dangerous tools. Just like a car is an incredibly useful tool, but it's a fucking dangerous tool, right? You have something in place for when something goes wrong, you can make sure that people are held accountable for what happens, and that nobody there needs to be shit in place for this, right? The Constitution doesn't say everybody should be able to get any gun that they want at any time that they want all the time, right? It says you shall be able to have weapons in this, like, because a well-regulated militia is necessary, right? But currently, the NRA is pushing us further and further into a place where there is no regulation at all, right? Because it is financially beneficial for them and for the people that they are in the service of, namely the people who manufacture guns, right? It is financially and politically beneficial for them to have these politicians refuse to even question the necessity of any kind of gun that's available to the civilians of this country, right? It's completely idiotic. It's counterintuitive. It is dangerous. It's dangerous that politicians are so afraid. They're so terrified of losing the money that's provided to them by the NRA that they refuse to even look at what is going on in the United States with regards to gun violence. They refuse to even allow for the first time in the wake of the Parkland shootings, at the insistence of these students, for the first time in decades, the CDC is finally able to compile data about gun violence in the United States. For decades, they've been prohibited from even compiling that data because politicians were so fucking afraid of losing the money that's given to them by the NRA.
But I hate to say this, it's not going to be used. This is posturing. This is all posturing. They're putting a Band-Aid on an infected cut. It's not going to heal.
But at least putting a Band-Aid on it is acknowledging that there's a cut, right? Whereas as up until this point, somebody has been paying these people to say, what cut? There's no cut. There's nothing wrong here, right? It's a tiny fraction of what needs to happen, but at least we've finally been able to acknowledge, like, politically and publicly, that there's a problem, right? These government, like, these politicians are finally saying, oh, maybe there might be a problem here. Maybe let's look at something, right? Like, looking at your arm and going, oh, what's that? It's not a solution, but it's a tiny step.
Yeah, but this is going to get into our discussion in the topic segment, which is going to be good. That I'm going to bring this up.
Yeah.
It's what they do to, like, step one in avoiding a problem is to pretend it's not there.
Yes.
When you can't do that any longer, you acknowledge it and then you Band-Aid it. And that's almost worse. And this is why I have a problem. We all, once again, it's going to go into the whatever segment, but we always do this thing where we go, yeah, they did something. But most of us afterward go, yeah, they did it. Hooray, we've won. Not realizing that they did something to keep you quiet.
Yeah.
And that's what they always do.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna get some slack about it from black folks. Civil rights legislation, honestly, didn't do much. The Supreme Court made sure of it.
Mm-hmm.
Politicians around it made sure of it. They made a picture and go, hey, you did something, you won. You can calm the fuck down now. And you see where we lead it to now.
Well, no, and it's the same thing in the last handful of years, right? Marriage equality legislation passed. So now all the queer people can shut the fuck up about equal rights because you can get married now, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that in 27 states it's legal to, or it's in 26 states it's legal to fire somebody for no other reason than the fact that they identify as LGBTQI, et cetera, et cetera. And it's and that in 27 states they can be evicted from rented housing for no other reason, right? But they can shut up now about their equal rights because they can get married now.
I will say in regards to employment, since the U.S. is an at-will country, the only things you cannot fire someone for are sex-based discrimination, traditional sex-based discrimination,
race-based
discrimination,
heterocentric sex discrimination,
right? Race-based discrimination, and by race-based, they really only mean black people.
Yeah.
And disability. Anything else is on the board. You can be fired for anything else.
Yeah. Well, except, and I mean, but this gets into where there have been municipalities across the country that have tried to pass protections for LGBTQIA plus people, and the state has said no, you can't do that, and has overridden that local policy.
It's because of levels of scrutiny.
Yeah.
Which we're actually I'm going over. Basically, I'm gonna use a term here. Anything when it's not that, like most things go under like rational basis scrutiny. Basically, if it's not religion, race, sex, disability, the state, as in state and federal governments, can pass any kind of discriminatory thing. And if like a local municipality tries to pass protection, they're going to be against that because they want to have the option to discriminate however they want to that isn't those four things I just named.
That's some bullshit.
It's bullshit. But anyway, let's move on into our topic segment because we actually started walking into our topic segment.
Yeah.
A little bit already. But so let's run into it after a brief musical interlude.
Yeah.
Rico the Akronym back in the sack again. You motherfuckers is bullshitting all over. White motherfuckers, black motherfuckers, all right motherfuckers can eat a dick. All you bullshit black activists can suck a dick. I ain't say all black activists. I'm talking about the bullshit ones. But fuck the bullshit, man. I'm aiming at everybody on this motherfucker. Check this shit out. Yo. Y'all don't piss me off now. Fuck it, I'm shitting on clowns. Get out the way now. Everybody get down. I'm catching shit from alt-right niggas. It's right, I called y'all niggas. Fuck your bloody nana prima donnas. I'ma say what I wanna. And ain't nobody shut me up yet. Or with your number unavailable. Bullshit ass threats. I catch a bullet, dig it out, and make that shit in the rings. And put them on my middle finger. Call that death glint. You think I'm stupid enough to wage a war on white? My war's against the bullshit. That's right, on all sides. So all you pussy typing ass white fuckers got something to say, just come and say it to my motherfucking face. Let's debate, open your minds, maybe you'll learn. And standing for myself is hell, then I'm ready to burn. Right now it's my turn to let y'all know really what's up. Your shots I won't duck, supremacists, I'm calling your bluff. I said it now, what? I ain't gonna waste my time writing a hook for you motherfuckers. Fuck. I'm just getting this shit off my chest. Y'all got me mad in the motherfucker around time. Headaches and shit. Can't even smoke no weed and shit. Man. Check this shit. I'm talking to y'all now.
And welcome back, everyone. For today's topic, I would like to start out with a question. You know, with everything that's going on, have you ever felt just tired? It's a swirl of things that are constantly happening and that you're sad and angry and fired up so much that you kind of just want to stop. And eventually, after news story after news story after news story, you just kind of stop feeling. I'm sure all of us have felt this at some point in time. I'm sure a lot of us are feeling it right now. I know I have been feeling it really like a lot lately. And that feeling, if you don't know what it's already called, is apathy. And so that's our discussion for today, because apathy is real. Like, it is very real. And there are so many things happening in the world right now that it feels almost impossible to care about everything. And not only impossible, but detrimental.
Yeah.
I see so many people, whether it's friends, family members, associates, random Facebook people, who very often just go, I can't. Like, I can't anymore. So we're going to discuss like how to deal with apathy at both a personal level and at a like societal level, because societal apathy is a hell of a thing. It's probably one of the major things that keeps things from moving forward.
Yeah. So I want to clarify real fast, right? So given the kind of podcast that we are, and given the kind of people that probably have stuck with us this long, I think apathy
Both
is
of you.
not. Yeah, exactly. I think apathy is probably not quite the right word for what we are, you and me and our listeners are experiencing on an individual level. Like it looks kind of like it's fatigue, right? It's overwhelm and it's burnout, and it's compassion fatigue, and it's tragedy fatigue, right? We are standing here looking at everything that is coming at us down the pipeline, and it's too much, and it's a self-defense mechanism to say, I can't deal with this right now. It's not that, because apathy implies a lack of caring, and it's not that we don't care, it's that we don't have the personal resources to handle every single thing that's coming down the pipeline at us, right? So it's not, I mean, the effect is the same, right? That we look at ourselves and we see, and we say, I should be doing more. I could be doing more, right? Like that's the effect that it has. But I think that on a societal level, that apathy is like approximately the right word, right? Like we're looking around, at least with what I see, right? I look around at my immediate community, especially when I'm on Facebook, because my podcast alter ego Facebook is carefully curated so that the majority of the people that I interact with are also like engaged people, like people who are engaged in various causes, right? And the people that I interact with on Facebook regularly are the same as me. They're overwhelmed and they're talking about it, right? And to see somebody who's completely overwhelmed and experiencing this fatigue and is talking about it, that's one thing. But I have other people that I interact with who don't seem to be even aware of what's going on in the world. And those people, I think apathy is the right word, right? To where they see what's going on and they say, oh, well, that doesn't affect me, so I don't care enough to talk about it, or I don't care enough to get involved, or I don't care enough to go do this or that, right? That is apathy. But the effect is similar to where you say this person is not actively participating in solving the problem. And if you're looking, I was just interacting with person that we both know. We tried to have them on the show a few weeks ago, but we're not able to get that posted due to technical problems. Trav, who has been posting recently.
The computer killed that show.
Yes, the computer killed that show. We need to get them on the show again at some point. But to where they've been posting recently about just being completely overwhelmed and feeling guilty about it because they're not able to participate in the things that they think matter, but they just are not, they don't have the personal resources for that. And that's a struggle, right? To look at the things that you're doing versus the things that are going on in the world and to think that you're not doing enough. That's a huge.
Can I?
Sorry, yeah, I just went on a rant.
Something to that?
I just went on a rant. Please jump in.
No. I'm just going to add something about that. I'm looking at stuff now. In the study of positive psychology, that is apathy. One of these like styles of apathy is feeling like you can't do something.
Yeah.
Like you can't, or like you just can't do something. So it's not always just like not choosing to be able to do something. It's I can't. I'm helpless. So that was just my addition. So
yeah.
little defining there.
Okay. Yeah, that's the challenge is making sure that we mean the same things when we say words.
Right.
It's a challenge.
And see, like that, I have a similar issue, and it's not that I get the I also get the I can't do enough, and that like I just can't do it. Like my whole purpose in law school is to, help people, and a lot of the time the world seems like it can't be helped, and I feel like I've lost purpose.
Yeah.
A lot. Like it happens a lot, which actually makes school a bit of a struggle because sometimes I sit in class like, why am I here? I can't do anything. And trying to push through that is difficult. On the other side, sometimes, Esme went to this march earlier.
Yes.
And I am burned out on marches. I am completely burned out on marches. And visibility is good. Getting the word out and being visible and like showing you want the change is spectacular. But I don't feel like marches make that much of a difference anymore. Or if they ever have. Because we're trying to appeal to people. Like we're trying to appeal to something in people to make a change. And I don't think that works. I don't think our society, the way it's set up, is for that to work. I think we can make it we can appeal, and then, like we were saying earlier, somebody put a Band-Aid over it and pretend like it's gone away. But I just don't feel the way we've set up ourselves to protest works. And it makes me like burn out on the constant marches because I see it happening and I see all the passion and all like people up in arms, ready to go and like ready to fight for these, like to change everything. with the full-on notion and the full-on feel that it's not going to work. Not really. And coming from my view as like someone who studied history, in the past when things have like progression has really been pushed forward is when there was escalation. Mm. Things moved past just marching into other things, whether that be like armed resistance or whatever. But we're not doing that. We've basically been taught that doesn't work. Like, and that's not true. But we've been like conditioned to believe that if we just keep marching, keep marching, then people are going to listen and make a change. And I don't see that work. I don't see that working. I don't think that has ever worked. And I've had a discussion with people about the civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s. I very much believe that was not successful. There was victories. There were some victories. I agree, I wholly admit there were victories. But by the end of it, they put a bandage over the wound and let it fester. And that is the reason one of the major reasons black people are still in the societal place and situation we are now. I believe that's one of the major reasons we're still getting gunned down in the streets. After all that, there shouldn't be. We shouldn't still be having to march to say we're people. That shouldn't be a thing. And even with all these all these other issues with gun control and stuff, after the things that have happened, this stuff shouldn't be a thing. But what the society and what the government does is put a bandage over a wound, let it fester, and go about their business until something else happens and people go again. It's an endless cycle, and I find it really hard to care about these marches anymore. And I don't know what to do. I shouldn't feel like that.
So I want to put a different I want to put a different perspective, at least when we're talking specifically about marches, right? I want to put a little different perspective on it, which is, so I agree with you that I don't think that a march by itself ever actually did anything, right? And I think one of the reasons that we're so conditioned right now to believe that marching works is because that's the visible thing that we're taught about when it comes to the civil rights movement, right? We're not taught about
that's what we're sold anyway.
Huh? Say what?
That's what we're sold anyway.
Exactly. No, in the curriculum that we receive in school, we're not taught about how the Black Panther Party armed civilians to patrol their own neighborhoods. We're not taught about how the Black Panther Party fed the community and helped provide medical care for the community. We're not taught about the actual things that actually did the change. We're taught about the nonviolent protests and marches because that's the palatable thing to those people who are in power. So, right, I agree with you that I don't think a march by itself ever did anything. But the reason that I keep going to these marches and the reason that I keep showing up to them is because I personally am prone to apathy. I'm prone to saying, I'm just one person. How can my voice make any difference? What difference does it make if I call my senator or if I don't? What difference does it make if I do this or if I don't? But when I show up to a march is a really easily accessible, at least for an able-bodied person like me, right? To the people who are disabled, who have physical accessibility issues, who have mobility issues, it's less of an easy thing to do. But for somebody who's able-bodied, it can be a really easy way to show up and get connected to the spirit of the movement, right? Like, I went to this march today knowing that the march by itself is not really gonna do anything. The news is gonna cover it for a few days, and we're gonna talk about how many people were there, just like the Women's March, right? Just following the inauguration, right? The news followed it for a couple of days, and everybody said, oh, what a great thing it is that so many people are blah, 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 something, something, democracy, something, something, blah, 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 whatever. But I personally...
resist.
Exactly. But I went to this march, and I saw these kids who are so concerned for themselves, for their safety, for their schools, for their community. And they said to me, call your senator. They said to me, this is enough. They said to me, we've seen too many deaths. And I said, you're right, I'm going to call my senator, right? A march is not effective on its own. A march is a morale boosting event. I went to a march and I came out of it empowered to do things that might actually make a difference, right? I went to that march and nothing changed. Nothing changed except that I am more encouraged that I personally can do something that might actually help, right? And people who know told me the things to do that might actually make a difference, right? A march. A march is an event to bring the community together and to talk about what the next steps are, to distribute information, to boost morale, to draw attention, although drawing attention may or may not have any effect, right? To draw. So a march, the benefit of a march with regards to drawing attention is not drawing the attention of legislators. Legislators are going to do fuck all because so many people marched, right? But seeing at the latest count, something like hundreds of thousands of people marching in Washington, D.C. The Memphis March, by the official count, had 3,000 people at it. There are hundreds of thousands of people marching across the country today. The people whose attention matters on this event is the people who have been hand-wringing for so long saying something is wrong, what can I do? They're going to look at this event and say, oh, like some of them are going to look at this event and are going to say, oh, here's a thing that can happen. Here's a thing that we can do. Look at the amount of support this cause has received. Here's something that I can do. Right. And it's a momentum building thing, right? Like, it's not going to change anything on its own, but I feel more empowered having gone to it. I feel like I can do something more than I am encouraged. I am inspired, right? This has been something to help me fight off my personal apathy, my burnout, my fatigue.
And see, this make up once again back to apathy. I wish that did that for me. Mm-hmm. I wish it could garner enough positivity with me to make me go, this may work. But it doesn't, because it's still relying on a system that it still relies on the assumption that the system works.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. Like, democracy, this isn't a democracy. The people really don't have the power in government. That's just a truth. Like, and that's always been the case from the onset. Except now the difference is, back then it was a select group of people who thought they knew what was best and trying to make moves that they thought were best for the country. Now it's people who have been bought making judgments that are not what's best for what they think is best for the country, but what they think is best for the people who paid them.
Yeah.
Like, that's the difference. Like, it was never this was never a democracy. It's always been a society where the few in power had all the power and the people did not. But now it's the people who have paid the people in power that have the power, and people do not. And that bothers me. And once again, that of course leads to me not. It's one of the reasons I haven't joined. One of the reasons I haven't joined in groups, and because every group feels like the same thing. It all feels like the same. It feels like we're throwing tomatoes at a wall trying to get the wall to crumble. And like for me, this is like more than just like, hey, I'm compassionate about humanity. This is literally what I've always known was my life's purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard fighting through the feeling that the avenues in which I am allowed, quote unquote, to operate in order to get things done don't really work. And it's designed for them not to work.
Yeah. You know what the solution is?
Once again, burn it all down.
Burn it all down.
Like, and this is what I was saying. Like if you're not going to be on the list after this week's show, you're definitely going to be on the list afterward. Like next week's show.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the system isn't broken. I'm not going to say that. The system isn't broken. It was never meant to operate properly in the first place. It is
operating exactly the way that it was meant to, which is to elevate a very small number of people at the expense of everyone else.
But I will say the only difference, like I said, the only real difference is back then it was people who thought they were doing what was best. They thought they had the right ideas. They thought they were doing what was best. Nowadays, that's not the case. That's just most definitely not the case. It's not what's best. It's what's best for business. So yeah, like that's my own personal thing. I'm sorry. I think I went off there, and I apologize.
No, that's fine.
And like suffering from burnout, like I know and you've already brought this up. Like we know so many people suffering from very similar thoughts, and it's hard. I don't particularly. It's something that we don't know how to deal with. You know, I don't think any of us. This won't be a podcast of solutions.
No,
not really, because we really don't know how to deal with it. But this will be a podcast show talking about discussing how possibly we can learn to deal with this stuff. And like another reason for my own personal apathy in most situations. Oh my God, this is gonna sound real bad, but you know Amber Alerts.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten to the point where I don't care about Amber Alerts anymore. That's really messed up. But now when I see an Amber Alert, I go, well, that kid's dead. And I go on about my business.
Yeah. I don't say that in particular, but I look at an Amber Alert and I kind of shrug and then delete it.
Exactly.
Like I don't even, it doesn't even occur to me to like write down or memorize or whatever the details of what this is, because the chances of me seeing and finding that are so slim that like it doesn't seem worth it to me.
Yeah, you go, I can't do anything about this. And you go about your business. And that is my leeway into societal apathy. As a society, we all have that. Like, and that's another one of the major reasons. One of the major reasons, like things, so many things don't get done. Progress isn't made because, as a people, we go, you can't do anything about that. And I mean, and that's the one thing about another thing about a representative based system where the people, quote unquote, elect representatives to do the governing. It actually encourages society. It encourages societal apathy. Because you go, well, as a society, we go, well, the problems and problem solving, it's not in our hands. It's in their hands. They'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
And all we have to do is just pick the right person to do it. So it's out of our hands. We don't have to care. And we don't have the power to do anything anyway. We don't have to care about it.
Yeah.
But as we've stated, with the way the system's set up now, we may elect these people, but they have no interest in actually solving problems. So how do we as a society get back the feeling that we are empowered? Because the feeling of empowerment is the feeling of empowerment is the only actual way of combating apathy. To feel like you can do something. And as you were saying, like the marches make you feel empowered. It makes many people feel empowered. But how do we actually galvanize that empowerment for those brief moments to actually put to use?
Yeah.
Like that's a real question. Like, because like once again, like, and back to the marches again, we go okay, we're gonna march, and all we have to do is call our senators, and if they don't do anything, we can vote the bums out of office. But who are we replacing them with? We only have a few people to pick from.
And basically every person that we have to pick from is somehow in the pocket. Yeah, they're in the same pool.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
our election system is explicitly set up to make it impossible to elect somebody who actually represents the people. I mean, it's
Right.
it's more possible at the very local level, right? Your mayor, your city councilors, those people might actually represent the interests of the people. But the higher up you get up the chain, the less the more difficult it is to field a what's the word I'm looking for? Right, a feasible candidate that actually
Right.
represents the people. Because nobody can raise enough money on their own without money from some kind of organization, right? Money from some business, from some political organization, from some lobbyist organization that has political motivations for providing money to that candidate. When your opponent is taking money from those people, you also have to take money from people who have political interest in funding you in order to be elected because of the way our electorate system is set up.
And
a person
look,
who legitimately...
I'll give this to the...
Sorry, go.
I'll say this. I'll give this to the Republican Party and their constituents. They don't feel as powerless because the Republican Party has convinced them that they have their best interest in hand.
Yes.
That they are their representatives. That they have their best interest in hand. So no matter what they do, they feel like they're empowered. Even when they're marching and stuff, they know, like,
yeah,
it's a lie. They don't have their best interest in hands.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, they're working against them. They're working against their own constituents. They're manipulating them.
Well,
very obviously.
even worse is that they have convinced their constituents that the things that are bad for them are actually good for them.
Right.
It's not even that they're lying to them. It's that they have completely subverted what their actual interests are. Sorry.
No, it's true. I mean, if it wasn't so horrifying, I would think it was brilliant.
Yep.
But I mean, even that reality makes you feel even less powerful as the opposition, no matter who's actually who's in office. Like even when Obama was in office, there wasn't so great of a feeling of, yeah, everything's progressing and moving forward. No. Even under the campaign of change, that lasted about 2 seconds. That lasted to the end of the campaign. Before people went same old, same old.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, think about, Black Lives Matter was not born out of the Trump administration. It was born out of the system before that, the system that we're still in. But if you want to talk about feeling empowered, whether your political power, whatever, or who's ever in political party will make you feel empowered or like you can do something. That's a I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time keeping it together, actually.
No, that's
yeah, sorry. But I mean that says it right there. I remember the feeling of powerlessness in the Black community is something. Because imagine always feeling like you can't do anything. You can't really do anything to change what's happening. That's what the Black community deals with. As much as we organize and stuff, we still live every day in fear, knowing, like, with fear, like if somebody pulls us over or whatever, that we can't do anything to actually help our situation. It's, yeah, sorry.
You don't have to apologize. I will be honest, the reason that I'm so non-emotional right now is because I'm browsing really relaxing, like, Instagram feeds on my other tab. It's distracting me. I'm not really being with these feelings that I'm having. So
no, it's fine. And see, and this is another thing. We feel so much that we'll tend to we overload.
Mm-hmm.
We overload. Like, I can't feel anymore because I felt so much that it just broke it. And like, one thing that I always see is people going, I feel so much. Like, I feel so much. I've had so much. I'm going through this burnout. Let me retreat.
Yeah.
And that's enough. Like, we also can't retreat. Like, take care of yourself. Sure. Definitely take care of yourself. But you can't totally retreat. You can't totally just stop caring. You can't become completely apathetic. Because then you've completely, like, you've lost. That's it. End of story. When we completely stop caring, we're done. That's it. And then you become a sociopath.
Yeah.
Also, you're typing up a storm.
You can hear that?
And it's coming through very loudly, yes.
Oh, now you know how annoying it is when you have your haptic feedback on your keyboard, on your phone. I need to figure out my whole system here. Sorry. Is that any better?
I'll let you figure that out and then we can continue.
Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. It was just because it was sitting on the base of my...
Better.
It was just because it was sitting on the base of my computer.
But please, Esme, add something to this, because I
think, like, this is a whole messed up, like, messy, really frustrating situation. I think the only thing I have to add that's going to be any good is that anything you can find as a tool to help you beat back the apathy is a good thing, right? We can't
find something that makes you feel good.
Yeah, right. Like, we can't completely give up, right? Overwhelm is a real thing. Burnout is a real thing. mental health is a real thing. Like, some days you just won't be able to do it, and that's okay. But if you only have days where you can't even do it, that is a problem, right? Because it means that there's not an accessible point for you to do anything, right? So whatever you can find that helps you do it, maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's tweeting at people. Maybe it's you make one phone call a day. Maybe, like me, I go to marches, and the marches spur me to action, right? I can do more when I connect with the community in that way. It's empowering to me, right? Maybe it is whatever it is that you can do, find something that empowers you instead of disheartens you. And that might be different for you than it is for anybody else. That's the only thing that I can say, right? Is that I don't know.
That's very difficult. That's very, very difficult for me. One of the only things that actually makes me feel the slightest bit powerful in regards to like helping the world. Well, there's two things. One is law school, which I just gotta hope I do good, honestly. And the other one is this podcast.
So you do law school and you do this podcast, and that's your contribution, right? If nothing else is sustainable for you, don't do it. Do what is sustainable for you. Everybody's contribution looks different.
My issue is, and this is just a personal like Keem issue. Keem is he's referring to himself in the third person.
Apparently.
He is very hard on himself at all times.
I mean, welcome to being an oppressed person. I don't know if you know.
Right. And I never think what I'm doing is enough.
Welcome to being an oppressed person.
How I am. Yeah.
Do I need to read you what I wrote on Trav's profile this morning?
No. I think I've read it.
About how fuck the system that tells us that we don't deserve peace or justice or I forget what all the things I said, right? We don't deserve peace or justice or happiness unless we spend literally every spare moment of time and every bit of our energy clawing it out of the hands of the people who want to keep it from us. Fuck that shit, right? You deserve to be happy. You deserve justice. You deserve freedom. And you deserve mental health. And you deserve, you do what you need to do to, do what you do to help and do what you need to do to be healthy. So, that's my thing. Sorry.
True.
Rant. Hello, Rant.
Also, and like I said, and like the add-on, outside of the, you going out and getting stuff done, please find something. Things are easier to deal with. You feel less fatigue, less you feel the onset of apathy less if you have other things that are making you happy in life.
You deserve to be happy. You deserve happiness in your life.
And
everybody deserves happiness in their life.
Once again, very personally, I'm dealing with a lot of depression currently again. I don't do much because I am alone in the city. So that makes things very hard, these feelings very hard, or feelings or lack thereof very hard to deal with. So don't be me. Go out and find something.
Yeah.
Or try.
Find your
I'm trying.
people.
I'm not very successful.
Find your people.
Let them be close. Find your people in your proximity.
Yes. Anyway.
I think that's about it. Now that we've depressed everyone.
Yeah.
Now that everyone's sad, we're gonna move you into the sex segment.
The sex segment is good today, guys.
Hopefully
it's good. The sex segment is good.
Hopefully that'll bring some joy into your life.
Yes.
Get some sex in your life.
Yes.
Get some sex segment in your life.
Yes. Yeah, see, now you're typing very loudly.
And I am not typing at all.
Something is clicking. What are you clicking?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay.
Nothing.
Anyway, sex segment?
We will have a sex segment after another brief musical interlude. Enjoy.
When the chips are down.
I'm starting to wonder why these people keep fucking with me. That fucking fake it till you make it shit's disgusting to me. More mustard than me. Hot right now, but a buster to me. I was born in the DARK and molded by IT. Darkness personified in light. I might just bang them in the head with my lyrical might. Yep, that's just the thing that tends to cause riots. Fuck being peaceful, not after they shot Micah. And Tamir, sincerely, who is next? They don't even have the time to wrap the noose around my neck. Chokeholds are way more cost efficient, and when they use it for no reason, that can be contested. And now every single rapper all on Facebook with a hashtag Black Lives Matter. Why don't life matter? Answer that. Bring back our girls. When's the last time you heard of that? Dope in the hood, we was grieving, now we celebrate crack. And that's whack, nigga. Really looking like the chips is down right now. Seeing the homies in the warehouses banging. How you banging with a 9 to 5, nigga? Man.
All right, everybody, welcome to the sex segment. So the sex segment today is going to be just a little bit different than most of our sex segments. In that,
what does that mean?
It means I'm not going to be talking about sex acts or sex toys or any of that. I'm going to be talking about media and the kinds of media that are available to the general public surrounding sex. Specifically in the context mostly of blogs, honestly. So the kinds of media and resources that are available. So, Keem, would you guess for me, give me a prediction, what do you think is the most represented demographic when it comes to sex bloggers?
Women.
Specifically?
Hetero women.
You want to get a little more specific?
Hetero women assigned at birth?
So, cis women.
Yes, that's the word I'm looking for. Look, I'm out of it, okay?
Cis, yes.
Cis women, there we go.
So,
cis het women.
Cis-het women. Specifically, want to go one more level?
Nah,
to get to what I'm actually talking about today?
I'm confused now.
White.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, I thought that came with the territory.
So I will fully admit, I don't know if it's confirmation bias because of the kinds of media that I seek out, or if this is actually true, but it actually seems like the highest represented demographic when it comes to sex bloggers is actually white queer women.
Really? Well, that makes sense.
Why does that make sense? Just
because just the way society, the way society talks about like normal, quote unquote, it's like societal normal sexuality.
Yeah.
It's not okay for a normal, quote unquote, person to actually talk about sex.
Yeah, and it's not, and quote unquote normal sex is PIV without the requirement of any additional like help, right?
Right.
So quote unquote normal hetero sex doesn't allow for the use of toys. I would actually say based on the resources that I see that's available out there, I would say that probably like queer women, I mean, specifically gay, bi, and pansexual women, and hetero women probably are close to being on equal representation when it comes to the sex blogging community. But the overwhelming majority of mainstream sex bloggers, like if you're going to Google sex blog or find even the list, like kinkly.com does a list every year of the 100 most influential sex bloggers. And the vast majority of the sex bloggers that are considered influential in the community are white women.
Also, goes back to sexuality in ethnic communities. Not something you really talk about.
Yeah, exactly. But so what I wanted to do today, and I will fully admit that for a very long time, even still, the vast majority of the sex bloggers that I read are queer white women or queer white AFAB people. I've been trying consciously to increase my readership of trans authors, trans bloggers when it comes to sex toy reviews. And I've been trying actively, and this gets to what I'm going to talk about today, to increase my awareness and readership of people of color when it comes to sex media and sex resources and sex toy reviews. And that's what I really wanted to get into today, is to just do a quick rundown of some of the people of color, specifically Black people, mostly Black women, that I've been that have come up on my radar that I've started to follow recently, because I know that the people who listen to our podcast are people who are concerned about ensuring representation of diverse views, right, within the media that they consume, right? It's really, really hard to truly appreciate the perspective of people who are different from you if the only resources, the only media that you ever consume is created by people who are like you, right? It's very difficult for me to appreciate the views of like heterosexual people. No, that's not true. Everybody is constantly exposed to the views of heterosexual people. Never mind. That was a bad example. But it is difficult for me to consider Black people, for example, Black people's perspective on sex and sexual relationships and all these things if I'm only ever exposed to like white queer women's views on sex and sexual relationships, right? You seeking out a diversity in the media and diversity and representation in the media that you consume is the best way to, or is one of the best ways to expand your own opinions and expand your own views, and to start to truly consider other people's perspectives. So, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. I will say it's funny. So something's funny, especially you talking about different perspectives of like sex and stuff, and the fact that like as you said, most of the blogs you find and most of the chit chat you hear in general media about sex stuff is usually white women.
Yeah.
There is a prevailing stereotype in the black community that white women are just overly sexual anyway. It's always the joke of, oh, you know why he with a white woman, don't you? He into that freaky stuff. You know, white women always get freaky.
I think it's weird because it's probably, I would bet, that it's less that white women are more sexual or more into sex or more into like quote unquote freaky stuff than it is that of every single demographic that exists, white women are the least stigmatized for talking about it.
Yeah, it's very much white privilege because
this is exactly white privilege.
You have the freedom to talk about that type of stuff. The rest of us really don't.
Yeah, like we are able to talk about it. I say we quote unquote we. I'm not convinced where it is that I stand. I'm still working on that. Thanks for being here for my journey, everybody. But yeah, like white women are the most free to talk about it. They're the least stigmatized for expressing that. With the possible exception of straight white, like white cis het dudes. But white cis het dudes are not, as a rule, in the habit of like critically looking at this, whereas as even like white cis het women are more likely to talk in detail about stuff like this, right? It's a whole thing.
I was gonna say again, the stereotype on the opposite side of white cishet dudes in the black community are just plain vanilla. Like they don't do shit. They just basically white bread.
Yeah, but I don't know, but they're not as stigmatized for talking about it, right? Their vanilla-ness or their repression or whatever comes from a different place. It's not that they're stigmatized about talking about it. It's that, I don't know, it's a whole thing. But this is all taking away from the fact that what I wanted to actually talk about, I mean, it's not really taking away from it, but the direction that I actually wanted to go with the sex segment today was to draw everybody's attention to Black sexuality educators and bloggers and resources that are in the community, Black people who are breaking that silence, who are talking frankly and openly about all manner of topics when it comes to sex and sexuality and polyamory. I've got several resources here who deal explicitly with polyamory.
So let's bust them out.
Yeah, so the first one is one that you and I talked about last week before last, where it was week before last because I was on my spring break. But I had texted you to make just to double check that you had heard of him, and you had, because I had brought him up to you before, which is Kevin Patterson. So Kevin Patterson has been for a couple of years hosting the Tumblr blog Poly Role Models. And he has a book that is coming out that deals with the analysis of race when it comes to sex and sexuality and polyamory. And give me just 1 second. I'm going to look up what the name of that book is so that I can give it to you guys. Let me see. Kevin Patterson book. But so he's been hosting this website Wow, that's the wrong Kevin Patterson. That dude is very white. But so Kevin Patterson has been hosting poly role models for a while now, where he is collecting, and I've actually thought about contributing to this, but I need to talk to all my people before this. But he's collecting real people's actual stories of their journeys with non-monogamy, and their journeys with non-monogamy and polyamory, and the struggles that they've had and the successes that they've had, and how that's been working for them. I have heard many people speak about this as an extremely helpful resource, right? Because he doesn't just show the best parts of polyamory and the best parts of non-monogamy. He shows the struggles too. And it's a great way to help people. If you are considering non-monogamy, but you're not sure if you will be able to quote unquote do it right, or if you are currently exploring it and you're concerned that like you had a disagreement with people that you're involved with, and you think and you're afraid that means that you're doing it wrong. This can be a really good resource for you to turn to look and see, like, doing this doesn't mean that everything that you're doing is wrong, right? Nobody looks at a disagreement that a monogamous heterosexual couple has and say, oh, this is evidence that heterosexual monogamy obviously doesn't work, right? So this can be a really good resource to say, just because you have a struggle doesn't mean that this is doomed, doesn't mean that the system has failed you, doesn't mean that this is obviously not a sustainable way to have a relationship. It can be a really, really good resource. So I looked it up. Kevin A. Patterson is the author of this book. It's called Love's Not Colorblind: Race and Representation in Polyamorous and Other Alternative Communities. Which is extremely important, right? Like, I am 100% here for amplifying the voices of people who are talking about how race ties into these other systems, right? Because so much of the dialogue that happens about polyamory and non-monogamy, that happens about queerness, that happens about kink, is centered around white people and white people's voices, that it's difficult to find resources that talk about how race and racism shows up in those communities also. But that's still an extremely important conversation to have. Right? Like, you can't separate out race from people's experience of these things if they're part of an oppressed racial minority. And it's disingenuous and it's unethical to try to separate one thing from the other and to ignore part of people's identities in the service of something else, right? That's not okay. So it's really, really exciting, and it's really, really heartening to see books, and he's not the only book that's being published. I'd have to look up again. But there's more and more people out here talking about the intersection of these different identities and the intersection of these different systems. It's really, really heartening to see. And I did not realize until just now when I looked up this book on Amazon, which it's available for pre-order on Amazon right now. So if you're interested, go order it. The foreword for this book, Love's Not Colorblind, was actually written by the next person that I wanted to talk about. And I did not realize that until just now. The next person that I want to talk about is Ruby Bowie Johnson, who is currently operating in Dallas. She is the organizer of the Poly Dallas Millennium event, which is a convention, a convention for polyamorous and non-monogamous folks that takes place in Dallas every year. This year, it is July 13th through 15th, and I am extremely tempted to go, except that I have so many places to travel this summer. I'm going to travel so many places this summer. It's going to be insane.
When is it again?
July 13th through 15th. It's in the middle of July. It's a weekend. It'd be a really good thing to do. It says Poly Dallas Millennium is a symposium about consensual and ethical non-monogamy. Our symposium provides a sex-positive, safe space for those who are seeking knowledge about ethical non-monogamy, questions about ethical non-monogamy, or experience with ethical non-monogamy. And I'm like, fuck yes. A symposium about polyamory and non-monogamy organized by Black people. Yes, let us go to that. But I don't know if I'll be able to afford all of the things that go with that. Kevin Patterson is speaking at this year's. Huh?
You say it's in Dallas, right?
It's in Dallas.
One, not that far of a trip from Memphis.
Yeah.
As someone who's made it many, many, many times. Two, I have people in Dallas, so I mean, sleeping and living quarters for that weekend would not be a issue.
Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. But so Ruby Bowie Johnson, I don't know if she has her own blog, but she has an admirable speaking schedule. I first heard about her on the Sex Gets Real podcast, which is hosted by Dawn Sarah, who is, again, a queer white woman. But Dawn is really good about promoting people with marginalized voices, hence why I heard about Ruby Bowie Johnson. I don't know if... sorry, give me 1 second. But it is really important and really awesome that she is out here doing this work to put together. So she's got a website, but it's really important that she's out here doing this work to put together events that are specifically organized around non-monogamy and polyamory, specifically because she is a Black person. Like she does a very good job of centering Black voices within this community, which is incredibly important, right? Let's not continue to uplift the same very white people who are doing all of this stuff. So it looks like she's also a sex therapist. It looks like she does have a blog that is part of her website and part of her resources, where she speaks about sex issues and polyamory and non-monogamy, and communication styles within relationships and all of that, which is very important. So that's something that is excellent. She's not incredibly active on her blog, but she does have it, and she's got some good resources up there. So the next person that I wanted to talk about is the blog and hosted by the person of the same name, Feminista Jones, who is a Black woman who does all sorts of stuff, blogs. She does speaking and writing engagements. She has several books that have come out. She talks about Black culture, about race theory, about intersectional feminism, about health and well-being. Specifically, she talks about mental and sexual health, which are incredibly important. And both of those things are...
There it is.
Fucker.
There it is. There it is.
Okay. But she talks about mental and sexual health, both of which are incredibly important and both of which are heavily stigmatized. Back me up, Keem, because I know that you will. Both mental and sexual health are heavily stigmatized conversations in the Black community.
Yep.
Right. Those things are both taboo topics when it comes to conversations within the Black community, and to see somebody who is public about breaking the silence with regards to that's incredibly important. And so I wanted to make sure to talk about her, about the work that she's doing. So Kevin Patterson came on my radar a few months ago. Ruby B. Johnson has been on my radar since last summer. These other ones that I'm talking about, Feminista Jones and the next few that I'm going to be talking about, are very new to my radar, because I've been consciously like seeking out voices that are different from mine, right? Like, it's very, very easy for me to seek out the voices of like queer women and queer AFAB people, right? Because those are the voices that are similar to mine. But it's irresponsible for me to seek out only voices that are similar to mine, and to leave out everybody else. Because that takes just a tiny slice of what everybody needs to be concerned about.
So what you're saying is you're seeking out some outside voices other than your own, some
right,
outer voices,
as it were. Exactly, right? Because
credits. Sorry.
Yes, because that's important, right? It is the only way to move forward as a society is to listen to the voices of people who are pushed to the fringes of that society, right? If your society is going to succeed, you need to take into consideration the concerns of everyone, right? Nobody is able to escape the point of view of white cis heterosexual men, right? Nobody is able to escape the point of view of white cis heterosexual women, right? It's becoming so that it's even difficult based on what happens in the fashion industry and media and all of that. It's difficult to escape the perspective of white cis gay men, right? White cis gay men have strong voices in media and in fashion and in all of those realms, right? It's difficult to escape some of these voices. It is a lot easier to miss the voices of Black queer women, of Black queer trans folks, right? It's a lot easier to miss those voices because if you're not listening, right? But this society can't move forward without those people, right? Promotion of white cis people at the expense of everybody else is not actually an advancement. Surprise. Surprise! I'm sure you're surprised. Are you surprised, Keem?
I'm totally.
You're
can
shocked.
See the surprise on my face.
You're shocked.
Shocked. As wide as my eyes are as wide as their tiny squinty cells can go. Yes.
Right. And I will say one thing that I have noticed a whole lot as I'm looking specifically, if I'm looking specifically for media, sex media produced by Black people, it is way, 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 way harder to find media that is exclusively focused on pleasure, right? If you're looking at media that's produced by white cis women or like queer white AFAB folks or all of this, right? It's really easy to find media that's focused primarily on pleasure, right? Sex toy reviews or like there's one of the blogs that I follow is erotica that's semi-autobiographical, right? There's a whole bunch, or like how-to articles about how to do kink, how to do sex, how to do this, how to do that, whatever, right? That's really, really easy to find. But I'm going to keep digging for this because I'm sure that it's out there somewhere. But even looking for sex media, sex blogs that are produced by Black people, almost all of them, their primary focus is about sexual health, which is really sucky, right? Like, it sucks so bad that our society is currently at a place where if Black people are talking about sex, they feel like they have to first talk about sexual health before they talk about pleasure.
Because that's because they pitched the idea that one, we're sexual deviants, and two, we all have HIV.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's true though that HIV and STD rates are higher in Black communities than they are in other communities, in several other communities. And it's partly because it's so taboo to talk about these things, right? That when you're talking about white communities, the radical thing is to talk about actual pleasure for feminine folks. Whereas in Black communities, one of the most radical things that you can do is to talk about how to protect yourself, right? To talk about testing, to talk about prevention of disease. Like that is a radical thing, and that sucks.
Yeah.
And I think that we're like these people who are Black people who are publicly talking about health and safety. They are moving the conversation in the right direction, but it's really sucky that they have to start there instead of being able to be free to just talk about pleasure.
It's almost like we're a community where at one point they literally gave us syphilis to test some shit out.
What? No fucking way. And then they sold you religion to make sure that talking about sex was taboo.
My God.
It's a whole fucked up situation, and as usual, let's blame the white people because let's be real, white people did it.
Colonizers.
Yes. Yes. But speaking about black sex media who does talk about pleasure, I'm gonna promote one more person, which is Funky Brown Chick. And this is Tawana Hines. She's a sex educator, and she does do, a lot of her blog does focus on sexual health and birth control and disease prevention and all of this stuff. But she does also make a huge stand for women's rights, specifically Black women's right to sexual pleasure, right? You are like the overwhelming message of her blog is you deserve to have good sex, right? And good sex is sex that is pleasurable to you and that does not cause you to have a disease of some kind, right? But one of the strong messages of her blog is that every sexual human being has a right to sexual pleasure. And that is awesome to see. I'm really, really glad that we're able to find voices for that. And she's promoting sex positivity and sexual health and pleasure-focused education throughout the world. She's got all kinds of stuff. She calls people out all over the world for all of this stuff. It's really, really awesome to see.
Side note, I wish I knew more people personally who were Black people more personally that were open to talking about sexuality issues in the Black community, because I would love to just do a complete show on that. But
yes.
I don't know too many people.
I will start asking around. There are people.
Like, I don't know that many people personally.
I will ask around because you have trouble talking to people. I don't have trouble talking to people, usually. Sometimes I do. But I will talk to people because that is something that would be really, really awesome to do, right? To have a show talking about that.
And if anyone listening to this knows someone, please let us know.
Please do, right? Because Keem can speak to the experiences of Black people, and I can speak to the experiences of like sex educators, or at least I read a whole lot of material produced by sex educators. I hope one day to be a sex educator myself, but
like Keem is not very Keem is not very educated in. Keem is more of a doer and less of an educator when it comes in the sex department.
Would I be accurate in stating that the vast majority of the sex education that you have had has come from me?
Would you be accurate? Yes. Would you be entirely accurate? Accurate? Very yes.
Okay. And that's a sad state of affairs, guys, because I am not actually a sex educator. I'm not actually a sex educator. But so there are several more resources that I could get into. I am working really, really hard to continue to find, especially Black people who are currently producing media about sex, about especially pleasure-based sex education, right? Sorry, right? Like health and safety based sex education is extremely important, but I feel like there's an imbalance because of the stigma that currently exists in American Black culture or in American Black communities about talking about sex, that it's really unfortunate that so much of the conversation has to be health and safety focused instead of pleasure focused, right? Especially when we're talking about conversations that are happening among queer or among like femme and female Black people, right? Even among heterosexual femme and female Black people, right? Like these are conversations that need to happen too. So I'm going to keep digging. Hopefully in a couple of months, I'll have an update with more resources for you guys. If you know people of color, especially Black people, but also Latina people, who and Asian writers who are having these conversations, please get on the Facebook page and share them with me, because I really, really am looking to expand. Like I said, the vast majority of the people on my blog roll are white queer people, which I'm a white queer person, so that makes sense. But also, it's irresponsible of me to only read those voices, right? I don't want to fall into the trap of only seeking out people who are the same as me. That's a really sucky way to go about living life. So, hit me up. Send them to me. I want to read your resources. I want to see what resources you all have found that are promoting especially pleasure-based sex education. So that's my thing.
All righty. Is that the end of our show?
That's the end of the show.
All right, guys. As always, there will be links provided for what Esme has mentioned.
So many links.
Hopefully there will be links provided for the news. Special thanks to our musical guests.
It's going to be somebody that you've heard before. We haven't decided anybody new this week. Sorry, guys. Love you. So here's the thing. Here's the thing that I always feel bad that we keep forgetting to do, which, and then every time I listen to the Dildorks, speaking of white queer people talking about sex, every time I listen to the Dildorks, I'm reminded that we should probably do this in every episode. But thank you to the Living Room Leftists for being really gracious and letting us use your song. What's the name of the song? Four Things That Matter. Four Things that, or
you four. What? I messed it up.
You can't even say it.
I was gonna make fun of you
Four
for
Kinds
not
of Matter.
having the name, and I fucked it up.
4 Kinds of Matter. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
For letting us use your song, 4 Kinds of Matter, for our theme song. I did ask permission, I promise, even though the message didn't get to all of you. I love you guys. But thank you again. We really should promote you guys more often for letting us use that song. It's the least that we can do.
You gave us our theme song.
You gave us our theme song. It's the least we can do to send people to your band camp and give you money. Hopefully. Good luck. Anyway.
But yes, so special thanks to the Living Room Leftists for our theme song.
Yep.
Also, if you are a band or artist who would like to have your music featured, please contact us. Let us know. We'd love to have you on the show. We'd love to feature your music. We'd love to talk to you.
Yes, we want to talk to you, especially if you have something social justice-y that you care about. We like to talk to everybody about social justice-y stuff.
Also, if you're a listener who hasn't already been on the show,
yes, I feel like that's fewer and fewer people.
Yeah. But if you're a listener who would like to come on and chat with us, feel free to contact us. We would love to have you on. And as soon as I learn how to actually work Discord, I will have a Discord server set up for you to come in and chat with us from time to time. Get our community working together and maybe get anybody who want to get involved in the conversation involved.
I think the platform statement that we should make is, hey guys, big changes coming in the next few months.
Yeah.
Can we say that safely?
Yes.
Big changes coming in the next few months. Stay tuned.
Also, if anyone can teach me how to use Discord, I would be much obliged.
Anyway,
you can contact me privately because I'm an idiot.
Anyway,
but big changes coming in the near future. Big things popping, little things stopping. That's a T.I. song. To all my non-Negroes. But anyway, that leads us to the end of our show. As always, this has been Keem and Esme, and we are out.
But there are these things that matter, and they really fucking matter. There's like 4 things that matter, and they really fucking matter. I mean, objectively, I mean, you should care, especially you, if you thought about it for 5 fucking minutes.